go, baby.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Anthony. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right.
That's good to hear. I wanted to follow up with you about one of the topics you discussed during one of the last podcasts. During one of those interviews, you expressed a genuine love that you hold for the city of Milwaukee. And I wanted to explore that with you. If you wouldn't mind sharing that experience with your listening audience.
Well, you got by me being 47. Uh, I came to Milwaukee. I was probably about 5 years old, right? So you figure I came to Milwaukee about 1980. Now, uh, we ended up moving probably about 84, 85. We probably moved around 48th and Hope. So my stepfather, he worked for the city. Uh, no, so my mom, she really didn't work, but she went to school, stuff like that, at the time. But it was pretty decent in Milwaukee, you know. Uh, now my who you know people would know as my brother, you know. Now his family stayed over on 24th and Keith, 20 over there, and you know, growing up, we go back and forth over there, and they had a decent, you know, nice working class black neighborhood, you know.
Right.
So, you know, growing up in Milwaukee, it was, you know, fun place to be. You know, we ride our bikes all the way to the lakefront. You know, we ride, you know, we go all the way up to North Ridge to the mall. You had the arcade games you could play for a short minute, and they keep starting over.
Right.
So Milwaukee was a pretty decent city at that time, but you had, you know, factory jobs that hired blacks too at the time.
Right. Right.
And you had A.L. Smith, you had Briggs and Stratton,
Allison Chalmers. Right.
American Motors.
Right.
So,
right.
and I think we have to understand that, you know, when you look at black people, when black people make a certain amount of money, this is statistically facts, we don't really commit crime. It's something like $30,000-$40,000 a year, and our crime rate decreased substantially.
Right.
You know, so you know when you look at that about Milwaukee and that history growing up, and it wasn't what they make it out to be on TV. It's not that like it ain't no gang infested where you couldn't go in different neighborhoods. People like Milwaukee not designed like that. So I've been able to always go throughout Milwaukee, go wherever I want to if I ain't, you know.
Right.
So that's really the truth about Milwaukee, but they stereotype it. Now we have poverty. You know, you look
Right.
at the fact that Milwaukee has what you know, we have like a one of the lowest homeowner rates. We all rent, you know.
Right.
So you understand, like when you in inner city areas in Milwaukee, you know, other people see it as rough, but if you notice, them guys in that neighborhood, they stick together.
Right.
They had a form of unity. So we had what they call cliques in Milwaukee more than gangs,
Right.
you know, and those cliques was people friends. They was who grew up together. It wasn't
Right.
strangers just getting together doing.
Right.
No, we all hang out together. We friends. We you know
Right.
we gotta just back you. I'm help pay for you to go into the party if it's $2 and you ain't got it. You know,
Right.
that's how we grew up.
Right.
You know, and so of course if one of us we go somewhere, one of us get in a fight, we gonna all fight. They label that as a gang fight.
Right.
You know, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So but it was just kids being kids and us
Right.
taking up for each other's.
Right.
You know, so on that aspect, I do believe we can have unity in Milwaukee too for that.
Right.
You know, I like Milwaukee because the way we grew up, we have a certain amount of style. We into, you know, we have a certain drive for
Right.
nice things. So, you know, them the things I love about Milwaukee. So I feel like those are things that, you know, are salvageable about Milwaukee.
Right. That's interesting because that was actually what I was going to ask you. My question was going to be, since you was raised in Milwaukee, how has that growing experience helped to shape your view of Milwaukee as a place most of us call home? And you pretty much expounded upon that, you know.
Yeah, because like I said, we had the factories in Milwaukee, so that helped me see us. You know, when we had the jobs in our community,
Right.
and you know, we was wanting to hit hardest when the jobs left, Milwaukee. So that allowed me to see the transition without the jobs. So that really is a big part of why I have my perspective of self sufficiency, is because I've seen us have it and then them take it away in the condition we left in when
Right. Because
somebody
there
else
was no
take it.
backup plan. Because no one had planned for that, simply because at the time everybody relied on these big industrial companies that was giving everybody these jobs with this awesome pay at the time when what's considered an awesome pay back then is considered pennies now. So
Right.
yeah, that
So
makes a lot of sense.
so basically the NAFTA process that they started in the 80s, basically when we right got into the factory industry and they started the NAFTA, so right after we got into it, they pretty much left. And
Right.
so that process is really how developed the concept of self-sufficiency, localize your economy, stakeholders and stockholders,
Right.
that you have to be both. That experience and being from Milwaukee, seeing that transformation, that would really motivates that belief system.
Okay. Well, you mentioned something about NAFTA. Could you explain to people listening and watching you, what is NAFTA? What does it mean?
Uh,
What
the,
is
the,
its significance?
the North Atlantic free trade agreement, far as like Mexico, Canada, them trading goods. And so what happened is they decided to cut the NAFTA agreement. They took a lot of those frameworks to who we talking about, the A.L. Smith type jobs.
Right.
They took those to Mexico in order for lower labor, in order so they can still have some form of economy or
Right.
manufacturing in America. So a lot of them small parts that was made for the cars that wasn't made in Detroit, far as where they put it all together at. Well, we was doing it in other little states around the country. They
Right.
decided to take that overseas. So
Oh,
that was the beginning of, them basically exporting our jobs,
right.
outsourcing our jobs. So
Yeah. That makes sense. I can recall coming across different people and into some of my own experiences with people I knew, I grew up around, and relatives that had those jobs. But at the time, I was too young to understand what caused it. And you just explained that for those that wasn't aware, that's what it was. We knew about that the jobs were outsourced, but we didn't know the reasons behind it. And you just explained that because it was a NAFTA
yeah,
agreement
that
where they
that
outsourced the jobs to get cheaper labor to produce the same part, only for them to come to turn around and sell it back to.
and they also increase in efficiency in a lot of factories too, with a lot of mechanics. So we've been replaced by robotics and things of that nature at a fast rate as well. And
Right.
then our purchasing practices, right, even today, make it promotes our job to leave. Just Americans purchasing practices. If you purchasing from China for cheap products, you know, then you incentivize companies to go to China to make cheaper products.
Because you're going to buy them anyway.
Right. So because we are headstrong on doing that, and I understand that's pretty much what's happening, and the jobs are leaving. That black people have to create their own economy,
Right.
because they're going to do what's in the best interest of them.
Right.
You have to think about what's in the best interest of your community,
Right.
right? So if you have an issue with the crime, you have to understand that because of the lack of the economy. So
Right.
you think back to the Briggs and Stratton age right there. So now you got to say we have to recreate that.
Good point. It makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, that brings me to another question, consistent with what you just said. There's been a lot of people who believe that they could better their life circumstances if they simply moved out of Milwaukee. Do you believe that this is a viable solution for those voices who say this?
Well, is this the problem? You still going,
Right.
and
You're
you
still
still gonna
you.
be black.
Right. You're still you. So no matter where you go, you're still going to be the person you are.
And blacks are treated this way everywhere,
Right.
you know, and I'm saying globally.
Right.
So it's no state in Wisconsin, in America, there's no state in America where racism doesn't exist.
Right.
You know, there's no state in America where there have not been racial discrimination lawsuits against jobs.
Right.
There's no state in America where there haven't been some form of housing discrimination against blacks. There's
Right.
nowhere you're going to go, you're going to duck your black skin and the discrimination that comes with that.
Right. Yeah.
So what I am saying to my people is you have to create the environment that you want to be in. So the problem is you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your people. You have to believe you more than what the media portray you to be. And without that belief, or that, without that belief in self or belief in what you can be, then yeah, you're gonna keep running. You're gonna keep running from neighborhood to neighborhood, hoping somebody else that made a plan to benefit you
Okay.
without you having putting in no work. So you think you're gonna go somewhere and everything gonna be already made and set up. Housing situation gonna be set up, no discrimination, but every right we have, somebody fought for.
Right.
Every right you have, nobody, nothing was set up. So you gonna do that, and you gonna do that there, here. Yeah, we in the belly of the beast here. We in Wisconsin is, for blacks, is rough. You know, it's we have one of the highest incarceration rate. Actually, I'm off Galena, so 53206, one of the highest incarceration area codes in the country.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and I served 13 and a half years in prison, so I'm part of that statistics. You
Right.
see, so, and I have many friends, that was incarcerated that was from that area.
Right.
You know, and I know we was motivated by economics.
Right.
I know all of us was motivated to the streets by finances.
Right.
You know,
That's interesting. Because I was just going to say that on the topic you saying about being in the belly of the beast as far as one of the major metropolitan cities, because Milwaukee has topped the list over the last 2 decades easily, at least 10 times. And in some instances, they topped it 2, 3 years in a row as the most racist city for African Americans to live. Do you believe to be that's an accurate statement?
yes.
Right. And see, that's the saddest part, and which led me back to the first question I asked you, the one I just asked you regarding people wanting to move.
You gotta face
Because
it.
Milwaukee, sadly, has a higher uh, statistical, well documented rating for one of the worst places for African Americans over most southern states individually and combined.
Right.
So, leading back to the question when I asked about what people, there's some people who feel that maybe, just maybe, if they can get a small reprieve because it's so uh, intoxicating, not, I would not to say intoxicating, but it's so suffocating because it's like you said, here is everywhere. It's in everything. It's with us. It's we turn it on each other. It's always all like the TV. It says that's all you get. All you get is, you get blasted by all of these different images and these sounds that says everything about you is bad. So there's no reason for us to try to do anything good for you. And some people have taken that to heart, and it's helped depress them. So they have felt that maybe if they just move, and I'm certain that you and I both know people who actually did and have done better, which is why I asked that particular question.
I know people who have relocated for various purposes, and some for, but moving to escape oppression, I haven't seen many do well of that. Because the truth is, you're gonna have that wherever you go.
Right, but here's the question though. Do you believe that despite knowing that you're going to get it everywhere, do you believe it is possible that a person internally can relift their spirits if the environment that they originally was in, where it seemed oppressive and suffocating, is less so,
I,
where they move to a new one?
for some it might be suitable. For me, right? I believe I have to face my obstacles. For me, it's like what you're saying is a form of abandonment. I leave a whole community. If I leave a whole community behind who can't move around constantly, and every time we run into an issue, I move from city to city because the racism is gonna follow wherever black people go.
Right,
Wherever black people
but we're
go,
only, but we're specifically talking about Milwaukee though,
it's,
because with Milwaukee, it's so oppressive and suffocating
yeah.
that you're not necessarily, depending on your perspective, abandoning your community if your community is other black people. Now, if you're saying, when you say community, because I don't know, you would have to answer that for me and the listeners. When you say community, do you mean specific people, or do you genuinely and generally mean your community as black people?
My black people be this is the thing with me. This is the thing with me. We gonna either keep running, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think as men, it's a point where you have to face things. I'm saying like, yeah, you might feel it's more comfortable here, but it might be more subtle. Just because they not saying it to you. See, me, I prefer you to say it to my face. I want you to be who you are. I want to know what I'm facing. I want to know what I'm dealing with. I can tackle that. So I know how racially discriminated you are in Milwaukee. Now, those of me, my people who, when they start to realize what the statistics is, the facts of the crime rates, who really committing the crimes and that thing, that nature, and when they properly get informed, then they can properly confront it. So, and a bigger problem we have as a people is the fact that we trying to ignore what is. We can't continue to ignore what is. It. I'm here. I was raised here. You discriminate against me here, right? So I have to, every time I go through that, I have to tuck my tail and leave. Because I might go here and it might be lesser for the collective. That don't mean it might not be something directly affect me because of who I am and what I do. So I might go to Indiana and they say, well, Negro, we ain't messing with everybody else, but Negro, you can't be out here selling this product. You might motivate other people to want to do it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So the fight is the fight. You ain't had no right to do it to me here. I gotta stand up for it here, and I gotta stand up for it there.
Understandable. But my question was, for some people who believe that they can fare better when it's less oppressive and suffocating, not that it don't exist, but it's not oppressive and so suffocating to them, where they get a chance to breathe.
I think what's like King said, you know, we thought that about the North. But King came up here and said it was more racist up in Chicago than the Mississippi.
Right.
So I think, and one of the problems that with the hidden racism is, and the South had the benefit of unity based on the fact that they knew who their enemy was, based on the fact that they can see who it was. So that made it for them able to come together and move forward for all of us.
It was easier for them to confront it because they seen it.
And so what we doing is, if I want to keep, I'm gonna keep ducking my head in the sand. I'm gonna keep looking away there anyway. If I'm looking to be comfortable, I don't want to face it. I just believe as a person, if I'm moving for that purpose, then no matter what, I'm just gonna keep looking away from it anyway. So I'm pretty much gonna keep accepting it anyway. That's really my actual belief. If you running from that, you just gonna keep accepting it. All I'm saying is, if I've dealt with racism, I'm just gonna move on to the next location. I'm just gonna move on. So I'm being pushed around.
And makes sense. Because, like you said, that's your perspective.
That's my perspective.
That's your
Some
perspective.
people is not as aggressive as me. Some people is not, fighters like me on certain things.
I don't necessarily doesn't make them fighters.
Well, yeah, that don't make them fighters, but that might not be their fight. They might not feel that that's important to them. Or,
and like you said, that's your perspective.
yeah.
Because some people might look at it differently. They might look at it as, I don't like being here because it's so suffocating or oppressive or so pernicious or cancerous. I need room to breathe. So let me go here, even though I know it's going to be here. There's better opportunities here. A lot of the opportunities that's here no longer exist. That's there no longer exists here. So I'll move to give myself an opportunity to do better. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying?
And if I say I understand people moving for various opportunities, if I was to say I do filming, so if I was to say I'm gonna go to Georgia and take advantage of the filming credit, or I'm gonna go here because I got people with this type of connections to do this. Now I understand that,
right?
I do understand that, but I'm saying is moving from city to city just because I think this place is less racist than the next place. Because like I said,
I understand that because it's kind of pointless. It's like going from, even though it's off topic, but the basics of it is related. That's like going from one bad relationship and then entering another relationship with a person, even though they look different and they have a different name, all their characteristics is the same as the person you just left and that you just got out the relationship with. So I totally agree with that.
Because I'm gonna jump, and then 9 times out of 10, I jump up and I go to another inner city, and I go to another place where the corner stores and businesses owned by other people who don't look like me.
Right.
Now, if I was going to a black utopia, it's black people, we own this and we building this nation, and it's a black people. You know what I'm saying? If I was going, that's understandable.
Right.
I could understand that, but I'm gonna go somewhere and the Arabs and the Indians all own the corner stores here and the same as before, and they still ain't giving out loans to black businesses the same here, but they just ain't, police just don't pull me over, only pull me over 2 times a month instead of 3 times a month. You know what I'm saying? What,
totally makes sense.
You just said
totally makes sense.
I might well stay here and say, listen, no, black people gotta get together. They ain't got a right to pull us over like this, period. I might well stand on that, and before I go, take that principle with me anyway. Like, this my right anyway, wherever I go.
Right.
So I just think more
totally
like
makes
that.
sense. Totally makes sense. I just wanted that. I just thought it was only fair to your listeners to understand that this is your perspective, and it's founded upon your experience. And even though your experiences may not be shared by somebody else, your basic logic and reasoning behind it is sound. Because, as you said, if I'm going to improve something because of this environment presenting and providing opportunities that are no longer here, definitely. But just running for running's sake, no, that's pointless. So that makes a lot of sense.
One thing, I be looking at abandoned towns.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I look at abandoned towns, like, all my people, we can go here, abandoned town, we can build our own. I look at that, but I'm not trying to go and be in the same environment that I just left
in a different
from.
location.
Yeah,
I agree. That's it's kind of pointless. That's why I use the analogy and example of going from a bad relationship, an unhealthy, violent, bad relationship, and you learn the characteristics of what made that relationship there, and then you turn around and you free yourself from this one and go right back to another one simply because you think it'd be different because the person has a different name and they look different, but everything else about them is the same. So that totally makes sense.
So you're going to go from one slumlord to the next. Or you're going to have the slumlord, he going to tell you he didn't never fix nothing in this apartment. He didn't piss you off. You're not going to pay rent. So he going to tell you, let me move you in another place. Give me a security deposit. Now, you was a slumlord the last time.
Right.
What's the purpose of me going to the next slumlord house you got?
Right. Exactly. All right, that makes sense. So you just mentioned this, which was my next question. Do you believe that Black Milwaukeeans should become more familiarized with the political process in Milwaukee as a city and the state of Wisconsin to help bring about the change in their social environments and their communities?
Yes. I hear black people say, black men say all the time, uh, my vote don't count. Make them show you that. Make them show you that. You go up there, you participate, you volunteer, you vote. You make them not count your vote to your face. That's what I say, dude.
Right,
Cause really, I just think the lingerance of how they treated black people when they was trying to vote is still with some black people. You see, that's really what I believe.
right,
When you going through all these tactics right now, not to count your vote, right?
right,
They ain't doing all these tricks for no reason now.
right,
There's a lot of tricks to say we ain't gonna count Pennsylvania, we ain't gonna count Milwaukee, wherever black people was at. They did a lot of tricks because see, the illusion of democracy and voting is how they keep everything running. So you make them shatter that illusion then. That's what you do.
right,
If they're not counting your vote, then you go to the polls, you show your numbers, you volunteer, you present your numbers, then you make them show you it don't count.
right,
That's just my belief. So, and another thing too is if this my brother and my brother say he going to go vote, this what he back and I know he for our people, right?
right,
What prevent you from supporting him?
right,
What prevent you to back him? Because your protest for our liberation might be different, but you would expect his support.
right,
You see, so you know that, and then we say our vote don't count because we don't know the political system. We don't know the manipulation games they play. You know, we don't understand gerrymandering. You know, Wisconsin wasn't the worst at gerrymandering in the country. What they do is they see how the blacks vote, and they take your area and they add it to a white district that vote Republican, and they add them two together. And they split your district up so your vote go not to the person who that you would most likely represent. So you got to be involved in all that. You got to be involved in all that. But see, this the trick. They took that out of school. What was that process? What was that?
social studies.
Social studies.
Mhm,
You don't have to take that no more.
mhm.
See, they took out of school the very system that governs you. They don't want you to know how the system operates that governs you. You should have a problem with that.
Right,
You should have a problem with that because you should know the whole step process. They should have many duplications of the government in school. They should have them kids in school passing bills so they understand how this happens. So they understand what governs them. So you should really have a problem with them not understanding the system that governs them.
great point. Which leads me to my last and final question. Do you believe if more voices like your own begin a concerted effort to reach out to their local common council members, state assemblymen and women, and become more familiar with them, bring more attention to them, get more people involved in the process, and educate them as to the importance of knowing who your common council member is, because it starts at the local levels, and get them more involved in that? Do you think and believe that that will help
I believe
awaken the consciousness and the uh, for lack of a better way of saying, the intelligence factor, as far as being more intelligent about the process as you explained when they took out the social studies?
I definitely so, and I believe once we understand that majority of business is politics, I think then we will understand and get more uh, involved in the political system. So many black people think that so many businesses is just making money off of just being great businessmen.
Right.
And that's like I follow stocks. So uh, Tesla, for instance, Tesla did not make a profit until they lobbied to get the carbon taxes done. So what happened is when the carbon taxes got done, you buy an electric car, he get a carbon tax. He get a carbon tax. He said he lowered the carbon emissions, right?
Right.
He sell those carbon emissions to companies who release too much carbon. This is how Tesla made their profit. They did not make they not selling cars is not electrical cars is not profitable for them yet. They make their profit off of politics. See, this is they're being subsidized to build their company. Same with uh the shot. The government developed majority of the process and gave it to them. Same with the measles. That was given to them by for $1, and they've made billions of dollars off of this. So we have to understand that we don't even go to the Brewers game. Yet the North Side Milwaukee was taxed to build a Brewer Stadium for this white guy to own. He don't own it, but he makes all the money out of it. Why they give you seasonal jobs, paying minimum wage, but you finance this. The illusion that these people pour themselves up by the bootstrap and that we're going to do the same. We're going to get out here and hustle our way to the top. And it's 40 million blacks, and you going to name 5 entertainers. So, yeah, when we get the understanding and the clarity that our economic condition was done mostly by politics, then we will understand if we want to come up out of this to get more involved in politics. And if you understand that, just go by, understand this. You have to have a license to sell, to receive food stamps in the corner store. You have a license to get WIC, a certain program. You have to have a license to get beer, and you have to have a license to sell alcohol, right? Those things can determine whether a store is successful or not. You take away their WIC, it's certain products you're not going to even buy in the inner city with cash because baby food, things of that nature, you're going to get off of WIC, milk, a lot of that. So you done took that income away from a lot of business. You can't get food stamps if they don't get your business food stamps. This is how they're selecting success. This is why the politics of it is so important. And I can show you this because I was purchasing baby food that I was selling to some corner stores at $11 the case, which they sold for 20 and Sam's Club sold for $28 a case. But they could no longer move this, even though they cheaper than Walmart or Sam's Club, because they no longer can get their WIC. Their WIC license with papers when we filled out in time. So just understand how much politics select the economics of your community. Know that you lost Bronzeville district because politically they decided to put this highway through this black community. They did the same thing in Detroit. They did the same thing in Minnesota. This is what happens. Politics affect us heavily in our economics, and I need us as a people to stop trying to separate the two.
I want to thank you, Mr. Amphy, because your commentary is insightful, very illuminating, and it's necessary. It's needed. It's much needed because there's a lot of people that don't understand that. There's a lot of people that hear different people make mention of it. They'll hear it on the news or they hear it presented on some show, but it's very rarely broken down in the way that you do, where you make it not only understandable but also relatable, and then you give the examples. Like I said before about your voice, it's unique in that for Milwaukee, especially, in that you have the life experience, the quote unquote bad side as well as the good side. You know, uh, you had mentioned in one of your prior interviews about even as a little child, you had an entrepreneurial spirit, you know, and that is why you're so adamant about working for self and encouraging the community to embrace, re embrace that attitude and ideology and start pulling their resources together. And of course, they're going to learn more about that as we continue to go on. But again, your voice is very powerful in that you present it in a way that's relatable, it's understandable. You don't got to go to no school for 3, 4 years. You're not required to get it from a single source that can't be re-accessed. Because a lot of times for humans, they get it from a particular source, and that is the only source of the information. So if that source is removed from them, they shut down. That's not a problem, and that's not going to issue you because you sell laundry detergent and other health items out here in the city of Milwaukee in different locations. And there's a lot of people that's listening to you that are familiar with it, especially those that are here, so they can actually walk up to you. And a lot of times you've expressed the same sentiments and attitudes and perspectives in the process of why you're doing it.
I'm gonna explain something to people. People ask me all the time why you don't get no store, why you don't have a store. I tell people this. I don't want the rent right, no brick and mortar cost right. But second, I don't have the political power for that. See, you can grab a corner store, right? You can grab a store, and you could be evicted by construction.
Right.
They can have construction going on in front of your building, in front of your streets for weeks and months at a time,
Mm-hmm.
running your customers away.
Mm-hmm.
The demographics of the customer base could change. You if you don't have the political base for that, that's why I suggest for a lot of black people to do mobile businesses.
Right.
That's why I do that.
Right.
Because I know how they're going to come for you, especially economically. So that's why you have to be so much involved politically, you know. And that's the only way to really hold a mirror to their actions. So
Excellent. Excellent way to end it. Again, I thank you for allowing me to interview you and to give you a platform to help people understand why it's important for you personally as well as profession to point these things out. Why your voice is important from an individual black man and from a member of a collective community that you're trying to repair. An important voice of somebody who's actually out here on the grind daily, almost throughout the entire day, walking it like you talk it. And important because there's a lot of voices, like I said before, in Milwaukee. However, most of them you usually have to read what they have to say, and you don't get to see them. You don't run into them often.
yeah, that's a, you know, I'm gonna say this too. When I first got out, right, I was going to the churches. I had this concept like, know how you ask a kid what you want to be when you grow up,
Right.
and the kid supposed to say, I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, right? I'm like, the kid ain't never seen a doctor. He never experienced a doctor. He probably went to the doctor. So my thing was like, we need to catalog black people because I know what segregation done to us. And we head to Brownsville district because of segregation. But I know what the integration did to us, right? Very rarely do a young black kid see what a doctor does. You know, he not around that, but in doing integration, doing segregation time, your mama could have cleaned the doctor's house, but he could have lived next door to you.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So that's the thing about us getting out here is that when we talk about our youth, we have to expose them to different opportunities. You know,
Right.
when you criticizing our children and our youth for the things they're doing, you have to understand what else have you exposed them to.
Right.
You know, so it's hard to have dreams and goals. You know, if you haven't had that exposure.
Right.
So that's one of the purposes of being out here too. You know, for for especially for the young kids to be like, yeah, I can go get that too, just like they see somebody else selling something else,
Right.
and I that's why I explain to them what I do. If a young kid say that they can do that, I explain to them what I do with his white label and how it flip. I talk to them about the cost of it and all that. You know,
Right.
because they need that exposure. They need to see what's out there and what can be done and believe they can create more path if they have that exposure.
And that's a great thing. So until the next one, enjoy the rest of your day because I know what you're going to go do. I know exactly what you're going to do. So I know you're going to have a joyous day because you're doing that which you've always had a passion for, you know, putting money in your pocket, but at the same
Yes.
time, providing something for other members of your community. So you're not just taking from, you're also giving back at the same time. And more often than not, you give more than you actually receive.
Yeah.
And it is my sincerest hopes that the more people understand the importance of your voice and the more people listen to you, it is my sincerest belief that you're going to reach a whole lot more people and you're going to be able to break through a whole lot of those blockades that continue to cripple us individually and especially collectively. So, on that note, I'll end it with farewell. Good day to you, brother. And I look forward to speaking to you next week.
All right. Good day, my brother.